Hello everyone, my name is Chrissy and welcome to my channel. Today I'm doing the 2 books with 1 stone tag. I was originally tagged by Lacey from Turn the Page. I will link her video down in the description below. Now this tag was originally thought up by Sean, the book maniac, and I'll link his original video down in the description below as well. So let's get started. The first prompt is the second and last book you read, and that is In the Hand of the Goddess by Tamara Pierce. It's the second book in the Song of the Lioness Quartet. And this follows a woman named Alana, though she's a young girl in the first book, and she's kind of still galley in the second book. In the first book, she pretends to be a boy in order to learn how to be a knight, and in the second book, it's about her continuing to disguise herself as a boy, and then to try and win her shield in order to become a full-fledged knight. There's much swashbuckling and sword play and magic that ends up happening. It's a fantastic read. This is a reread for me. I read this book back when I was a teenager in high school, and I've loved it for many years. Though there's a lot of things I forgot that happened in this book. A lot. Number 2 is the second book from the top of your TBR. So for this question, I'm going to pick one book from the Goodreads app that is going to be the second to the top. That thing. I'm good with words, promise. Second from the top in my Goodreads TBR is An Abundance of Katherines by John Green. Now, I know a lot of people find John Green's writing to be a little bit cringy. You know, I read, I think, one book by him so far, and that was Paper Towns, and I didn't find it particularly bad. I actually thought it was pretty good. Just read another book and see how I feel about it. The third prompt is 2 2-star reads. There's 2 books that first came up with 2-star reads. The first one is Forever by Judy Blume, and I did a whole reviewing romance on this book. It's really, to kind of boil it all down to one thing, is it's 2 boring people in a very boring relationship, and nothing really happens. It's kind of eh. I'll link down my reviewing romance in the description below. The second one is Rant by Steve. This book is a nonfiction, and it kind of goes off the blog of this guy, or rather, it's kind of like supplemental material for his blog. He rants about just being a waiter and, you know, dealing with really difficult customers and dealing with some of the ridiculous things that come when you're in the food service and customer service industry that happen. It's not as funny as I was hoping it would be. Like, he does try for his bit of humor, but a lot of it just comes, as I'm guessing a lot of people feel, is just really resentful towards the industry and very pretentious in some ways. It's just really weird. Like, this guy pretty much puts it as, everyone told me I should be a writer, and so this is my go at being a writer, kind of. It just felt really off in a written work. I didn't connect very well to this material, even though, you know, I do sympathize with some of the plights he goes through being in the service industry. It can be hell on wheels, so I understand, but just the way he presents it just didn't lend itself to me being empathetic to that. Number 4 is 2 great works by the same author. So I'm gonna bring up one of the books that I used before, In the Hand of the Goddess by Tamara Pierce, and The Circle of Magic, Sandry's book by Tamara Pierce as well. Tamara Pierce just does a lot of like quartets, trilogies, and series. All of them I find really fascinating and just good. I just think she's a really good fantasy writer and a really good young adult to mid-grade fiction writer. Pick them up. Take a look. Okay, number 5 is 2 bails, or 2 books you wish you bailed on, or 2 books you hated. So, hate is a strong word. I'm just going to say books that I didn't really like. Now, admittedly, this is a little bit hard because I have been liking what I've been reading so far, and recently. So instead, I'm going to Goodreads to look at books that I have rated around 2 to 1 stars. And the first one is Sins of the House of Borgia by Sarah Bauer. I don't really remember this book. I did give it 1 star, though, and I read this in 2011, and the review I gave it was this. I had a hard time reading this book mainly because of the writing style. There was also the fact that the main character was obsessive about a jackass. 2011 Christina was a very different person than 2019 Christina. I'm not very impressed with my own review. It doesn't really tell you anything. Apparently a character's obsessive about a jackass, so there you have it. The second book that I'm going to mention is called Pirates by Celia Reese. Now, this book I do remember a little bit better, and that's because I read it in March 16th, 2015. And I did give a little bit more of a thorough review. I'm not going to read all of it, but let me see if I can find some snippets. So the first line is, I bought this book wanting to love it, end up saying, as it were, there are no female gay pirates. I remember this because when I originally bought this book, reading the back of it, I thought it was about this gal who runs away with another lady and that they become pirates together and live out their lives happily with each other on the seas. But that's not what ended up happening. It's this kind of love story where this gal has to run away from this arranged marriage to this guy that she doesn't like. And she doesn't really have a reason for not liking him. It's just she doesn't like him. And so she goes off into the distance on a pirate ship. The main reason why I didn't like this book very much was because it did a lot of telling instead of showing. There were scenes that I really thought could have benefited from having more detail explained. There's a scene where one of the captains of the ship is trying to, rally the men in order to give shelter to these two gals on the ship. And she tells about it. She says, the captain gave a rousing speech, but there's no speech that follows to see how it's rousing or anything like that. It's just you have to make up the speech in your own head. Number 6 is 2 favorite reads so far this year. So this is actually harder for me to pick than 2 books I dislike. I like far more books than I do dislike. I'm just going to pick kind of some of the more recent ones instead of even just this year. The first one is What Alice Forgot by Liane Moriarty. Follows a lady who ends up falling and knocking her head on handlebars on a stationary bike, and she forgets kind of the last couple of years of her life, or not even the last couple of years. What am I saying? The last decade of her life. She thinks that she's 29 when really she's 39. She finds out that her life is very different from what it was 10 years ago. She finds that she's divorcing from her husband and that she's had 3 kids. I loved it a lot. I heavily recommend. Liane Moriarty just does such a good job of balancing funny with the serious. And for a contemporary book, this really engaged me like no other. While I do read contemporary, they're not usually the ones I go to the most. I normally stick with fantasy, sci-fi. But I definitely loved What Alice Forgot. The next one is Helen and Troy's Epic Road Quest by A. Lee Martinez. A. Lee Martinez is just one of my favorite authors, and I really just love his writing style. He does humoristic fantasy novels. This follows 2 teenagers who end up being forced to go on this quest or they die, and they face dragons and orcs and everything else under the sun. The next is 2 new favorite booktubers. The first one is All of the Lovely Books. She's new. I just really like the way that she presents the books that she talks about, and yeah, I just like her content. The next one is really new, and that's Catastrophe Reader. 4 videos I see so far. I just really like how they present themselves. And so I'll link them down to the description below. Please go check them out. They're incredibly new. Welcome them to the community. Say hello. Number 8, a book you've read twice. I was going to go with In the Hand of the Goddess again, but instead I'll just say The Ultimate Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy by Douglas Adams. As you can see, this book is very, very well loved. It was read quite a number of times. Not just by me. If you don't know Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy by Douglas Adams, for 1, I'm sorry. For 2, go, get it, read it. It's a hilarious sci-fi adventure, and will show you the benefits for carrying a towel with you at all times. Number 9, 2 fabulous quotes from books you've recently read. The first one is from Battle Royale, and it's this gal, Takako, is getting hit on by this other guy. Putting on a demure act, she had pivoted free of his hand and gently parried him, saying, "Oh, I'm flattered." But on the inside she was scoffing. "Nice try, creep. How about you take another 100 years to work on your lines?" I just was cheering for Takako a lot. The next quote is from The Kite Runner. "There is no more wretched act than stealing, Amir." And I picked that because it's a theme throughout this book, and how stealing can be more than just taking a physical object. So it keeps going back and back. So I just like that tie-in to this book. And the last is tag a number of booktubers. The total must be divisible by 2. So I'm going to pick Catastrophe Reader and All of the Lovely Books. If you like this video, hit that thumbs up button. If you like seeing this face talk about books, hit that subscribe button. And as always and forever, may you get lost in a book.